Welcome back to a new episode of Relocate to Happiness podcast. I'm your host, Luca Shaked, and my today guest is Aleksandra. We will have a conversation about happiness, education, and neuroscience. Aleksandra is an educationalist who has learned everything she knows through teaching it to others. She started teaching at the age of 14 and became a teacher trainer at the age of 27. She got a degree in Educational Neuroscience from University College London and is trained in future studies and happiness studies, which she also links to education. Her biggest ambition is to reform education, to make it fit for purpose and encourage uniqueness rather than conformity. She's currently working at Neurocomb25 Lab, where she conducts first-hand research in neuroscience, happiness studies, and future studies, and translates recent research in these fields to education. Enjoy. Today, we're going to have a conversation about happiness, life, high performance, happiness and AI.
You can do this. It's a game.
This was just the first question.
Sorry.
Never thought I'd say that.
No.
You know what? Why?
I'm just thinking about the avocado, meat, food, potato. Like being very focused.
And I'm running, not ready, in underwear.
Oh, will she come in her lingerie? Like
You have to schedule sex. I don't like that.
All we need is love.
Relocate to happiness.
Welcome, Aleksandra. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. Are you back in London?
Yes, hello, Luca. It's very good to hear from you. It's been 2 weeks since we saw each other.
In Mexico City?
Yeah. Yes, I'm not in London now. I'm in Edinburgh with my parents.
In Scotland.
Preparing for the festive season, you know. For the festivities of birthdays. We have lots of birthdays in December. Then Christmas. Then January is also quite festive. So yeah, I'm with my family now. How are you?
I'm very happy that you made time, because I know December is a very, very intense month. And I know you told me that you're traveling, and I've seen just like it was 2 weeks ago when I saw you on stage, and you told me that you're going home and you're going to see the parents. So I'm really grateful that you actually took the time, and we're breathing. And I also, December for me is my busiest month, and I also have like a birthday and my girl's birthday, my kid's birthday. But when I saw you in Mexico on that stage, and you did a presentation, I mean, I saw you also off the stage, and we had the chance to chat a bit. And I also I was
Coming on and off, yeah.
On and off the stage. But when I saw you on stage, I was like, you know what? I have to get her on my podcast to tell the people, to create more awareness and to share more about the beauty of the project. And we're going to get into, straight to the flower of life and neuroscience. And I think, what can be more interesting than neuroscience, education, and happiness all together? So, I just, let's start.
Yes, let's do it. I'm also very eager to share with people because, caring is sharing. And I feel like quite recently I have accumulated so much information. And if you don't share it, you feel like you're like a swamp, you become really like a swamp. So to have clean water in your river, you always have to share. You always have to give, to have more space to take.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm obviously very happy to do that, and very happy to end up 2024 with the podcast.
It's just the beginning.
Yeah, this is just the beginning. That's true.
So talking about sharing, can you just share, a bit about your journey and how did you actually get to this amazing, interesting field of neuroscience? And how did you get here? Neuroscience and happiness and education. I know a bit, but I would love to hear more.
Yeah, so everything started when I started working very early at the age of 11, 12. I always wanted to be, independent, being able to buy this beautiful like ties for myself when I was a schoolgirl. I've been able to buy the stickers, the magazines, the comics that I wanted. So I started working. I was selling some cosmetics. And actually, there was one wonderful lady, Faina David. I still remember her. She was just entrusting, lots of cosmetics to me, and I was realizing all of it, and was a wonderful experience. But then I started learning foreign languages very intensively. And I don't know, nobody told me that, but I've realized that by teaching, you actually learn better.
Of course, yeah.
Yes, and as soon as I started learning, I remember I had like a notebook where I was, taking notes of the probable future lesson plans that I would like to teach.
And all this happened in Ukraine, right? Like you're originally from Ukraine.
Yes. That was back home in my hometown in Ukraine. And at the age of 14, one of our neighbors, she had a son, and she wanted her son to sort of, brush up on his English. And I started tutoring him. And that was when I started teaching at the age of 14. Then I was working as a dancing teacher. Then I was teaching German. Then I was teaching Turkish. So whatever I was learning, I was teaching it. And I realized that, the teaching is something that I would like to be doing in my life. And to me, teaching has always been related to leadership. I really think that the teachers are leaders and leaders are teachers. And there are many different, leadership styles, but teaching is one of them. Because you don't just, teach verbally. You teach by example. You lead by example, and it's very, very related to each other. So this is how it all started. Then I graduated. I got my master's in the love of learning.
And you're here today to teach me about neuroscience. So how fun is that?
Yes, and then, I became a teacher trainer at the age of 27. I'm also UK qualified teacher, so I have my number. It's all official. I'm an officially trained teacher. And then I got my degree quite recently in Educational Neuroscience from University College London. And I'm trained in happiness studies, as you know, and in future studies. And I believe that this is really, a cord of three strands to reform education: neuroscience, happiness studies, and future studies. And we even have the seminar, which we call so, a cord of three strands to reform education: neuroscience, happiness studies, and future studies. Yeah. So, and these three are really, really not just important, but they get to the core.
They're the base.
Education. Yes. Yeah. So this is the baseline, and this is the core of education. Because, there are lots of bits and pieces. We have social emotional learning, we have holistic approach, we have this and that, but how to structure it in a way that this is applicable and can lead to systemic change. This is
like long-lasting change. Okay.
Exactly, long-lasting and systemic, because we need to change the system of education.
I agree.
And there are many different factors that influence educational outcomes. Factors like health of the students, factors like politics, like culture, like some approaches, they're not applicable in some countries because of the culture, because of the religion. So it's very, very, that it should be a very individual approach, and it should be a systemic change. Yeah, so that's to make a long story short. And move on.
No, go. No, I don't want to move. It's very interesting what you said, but before that, I want to ask you something. I don't want to move forward. I want to go deeper. And I wanted to, you mentioned the teachers and leading by example. And I would like to ask you, what is the role of the teacher? Like, what would you think, like in the life of the kids, and also like in education?
Yeah, that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that, because I have been dreaming of saying that out loud, that leading by example is the most important thing. But unfortunately, the teachers are not, they don't have this worldly wisdom these days. They're not well-traveled people. They're not successful people, I mean, personally. And this is the problem, and this is not their fault, because it's an underpaid job. And that's unfortunately, because teachers have to be the most successful leaders. We have something called embodied cognition in neuroscience. So embodied cognition, the first meaning is that you learn through your body. You have to do it to learn, you have to act. And the second one is that you learn from other people through the way they act. So the teacher can be telling the students, oh, don't do that, don't, fight, don't do this and that. But when the moment comes and the teacher gets angry,
they start screaming and they lose it.
Yeah, they learn this, they don't learn what you tell them, what you are saying. They learn what you are showing to them. And again, we can't blame the teachers for that, because they don't have the mindfulness training, anger management, and they are unhappy. I've seen in teacher training, as I said, for 6 years probably so far. And the majority of the teachers that I've seen, they are unhappy people, and as a result, unhappy teachers. They don't
it's like
have
a circle that it doesn't.
Yes, it's a vicious circle, and they are spreading unhappiness. They are teaching unhappiness, because it's not about the content. The content is just the vessel to teach the skills. It's just the means to teach love, to teach happiness, to teach success.
So it
focus on the content. These days we have internet. You just one mouse click and you get anything you want.
It's true.
So the education should turn to the how, not to the what. The what is fine. We have a lot of what, everywhere. Lots of books, lots of information. But what about the how? And this is what the teachers bring to education.
And how do you apply it? Yeah.
Yes.
So my next question would lead to I'm just thinking out loud with you. So what can we do today to make sure that those teachers are happier, are more successful, are more satisfied with their lives? What can we do, or what can the governments do? How can we change what's the future of education?
Exactly. So we have to completely rethink the role of a teacher. And as I said, teachers are leaders, and leaders are teachers. So we have to treat teachers as the highest level athletes, because they have to do this job of leaders. They are raising the generations. But we treat teachers like gap fillers. Go into the classroom and just, to do the nurturing for your children, when teachers can have a much greater impact. And of course, as you said, we have to start from other factors like politics. We have to completely rethink what teachers bring to the table. The teachers have to be the most experienced, the best traveled, the people who have good taste, aesthetic intelligence, the people who dress well, the people who look good. I just remember, getting back to my school.
You don't have this problem with the looking good, you were talking.
Yes.
I was just thinking about that little boy. You were 14, and then the neighbor gets in oh my God, now I have to learn English. And how did he concentrate when you got in there? Poor kid. Sorry, I have to.
That's another story. No, we are just. Looking good. By looking good, I don't mean you have to be beautiful, but you have to show the life where we're leading the children to. If we're leading them to success, we have to show them success in the classroom, and this is the teacher who represents success. These things are very important, and all these details, they really matter. But when I look back at my education system, and the school that I went to, it was just an ordinary school, but the teachers that we had, they were so unhappy. I remember these unhappy eyes, when I was a child. I remember them, some teachers, they had problem with the odor. Even they didn't smell nice. I loved history, but my history teacher, I was sitting in the front row, but when she was trying to explain something and raising her her arm, so the smell was not very pleasant for me to concentrate.
Ouch.
And this is just
Small details that make a big deal. Yeah.
it's a small detail, but it really
You
matters.
still remember
So
it today.
I still remember it today, yes. And I think I missed lots of points in history because of that. No, I'm just kidding. But my point is that all these details, they really matter. And the service that we give to our children, it has to be the high level, the high level service, because we are teaching them success from school. They learn it at school. How can we expect them to learn it when they grow up if they see unsuccessful teachers at school as people, as personalities, unhappy teachers, unsatisfied teachers?
I get it. I just want to share something. So I'm very, very satisfied, like with my kids' school now and with my kids' education, and I can always make the difference, between where I grew up. I grew up in Romania. Romania, as you know, it was a communist country. Luckily, before I started school, so there was the revolution in '89, and there was the democracy. But of course, the education system was still the Ceausescu, very much into, except for learning all the poems and all the songs for him, the education was still the same, and also the mentality of the teachers. So looking back at it now, I was very happy, like at the school, and I was like a good student at the beginning, but looking back at it, they were just promoting probably the worst things that you can do today. So being competitive, one against each other, not being competing and being better, that you're like every day for yourself. So there was a very strong competitive level between us as a student and between us as classes. Although we were in the same school, learning everything by heart, like teaching by, you have to repeat, of course, inducing fear. We were skipping classes, PE classes, the sports, just to be, because our teacher was believing that we all have to go to the Olympiada, like to the Olympics of the mathematics. And of course, you were skipping the most important thing for the kids, doing sports. So many wrong things, On the other hand, I'm lucky enough to say that my kids today, they have well-being classes at school. It's called Pastoral. They have like workshops. They teach them about mindfulness. They teach them about meditation. So one of my girls was she had a list of meditation that apparently the teacher was teaching, was helping them to calm down. Many good things are happening. They teach them on values. They have they have a calm zone in their classroom actually. And they asked him, I don't remember exactly all the colors, but I think that the red is probably something bad, and then you're in the green zone. And then I have twins, so I found them, they were taking shower, and one of them was holding the other, just come, give my hand, come back to the green zone, come with me. And, they were just joking, but a lot of things, that I see the difference in mentality. And another funny story, and then I will let you speak, is that last week, 2 weeks ago, so we were in Mexico together. My husband was the one taking care of them. And then apparently they were late in one of the mornings. And he was like, you know what, it's fine. You wake up, you don't wake up. It's up to you. If you're ready, it's your responsibility, and we can be late. It's even easier for me because I can actually get parking easier. And then they were like, no. Did I tell you, or are you laughing? Did I share?
Well, I'm just, that's interesting.
No, because I was telling them, and they're like, no, it will be written.
They have to teach the others.
Yeah. And they're like, no, it will be written in our report cards. It will affect our future. If we're late now, we won't be able to get in a better school, and I was like, what? Who told them that? I don't think that they came up with that by themselves. So anyway, to make a long story short, I just wanted to say there's a big difference between the old education system and the new ones. Of course, I went to a public school. They're going to a private school. Things are different, and I think there's a lot. And I'm also very lucky to have a very good relationship with the school. We celebrated the International Happiness Day last year. I'm attending workshops, and so there's a lot of awareness, and I think things are changing.
Yeah, that's a good point. And what you mentioned about your school in Romania, I think that system was good enough in terms of deep learning, because we were really learning. I also, I went through this system, the post-Soviet system. We had to learn poetry by heart. We had to memorize a lot, and that's not bad because it teaches you to get to the core of things. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes people, they overuse these new approaches, this methodology which is about simplifying things, just serving them on a silver platter to children. But actually happiness in learning it doesn't mean that everything comes easy. Happiness is about drilling. When you take pleasure from, drilling, from getting to the core, from really revealing the knowledge, because knowledge is hidden. Mm-hmm. And this is our job to find it, to look for it, and meanwhile, take pleasure from it, enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Like, and not to give everything to the kids like easily, and not to protect them so much.
Exactly, yes. Not to give it on a silver platter, just, all these approaches, let's make it easier, speed reading, easier this, easier maths. We don't need it easier. We have to teach them why it is important, why being curious is a gift in life. So if you are a curious person, you are lucky. Is a big luck to be curious as a person.
And I think that curiosity also is like from the point of view, like there is a study that curious people live longer. So it's like also leads to longevity, right? Sorry, go ahead.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, I've heard that as well. And curious people innovate. And that's another point that we've touched. Because to me, the outcome of education should be innovation. Mm-hmm. So why are we learning? What are we learning for? We are learning to filter the knowledge that we get through our lens, because we are all different and we all have different perspective. So we have to filter it and we have to give it back. So the way we can produce it. And this is called innovation. Mm-hmm. How many innovators have been lost in the countries where they have no opportunity to speak up, to speak out, to speak up, in the economies where they didn't have enough opportunities, maybe in the regimes which didn't let them do so. So I think it's very important, again, to rethink education and get back to the core, to the basics. What are we educating for? What is the outcome? What should be the outcome?
Mm-hmm. Super interesting. And you mentioned happiness a few times, and I didn't ask you the question. What is happiness? What does happiness mean to you? And of course, personally, and of course, as an educator.
Yeah, that's a very deep question. And I've been thinking about it for a while in my life, and I even have, my mini poetry collection book. I love poetry. I write poetry. This is my therapy. This is my happiness as well. And it's called the Black Swan verses. To me, happiness is really a black swan. What is a black swan? It's an unprecedented event because, people in the 15th century, they had a saying that, oh, this is a black swan, which meant it doesn't exist. But when William de Vlaming, the Dutch explorer, when he found the black swans in Western Australia, people realized that they actually existed all this time, but nobody knew about them.
Mm-hmm.
And the same is for happiness. Happiness is there. It's always there. It's your black swan. But you sometimes don't have the time to reflect, to stop, to be mindfully present, to appreciate your happiness, to appreciate the people that you have in your life right now, to appreciate the talents, the gifts that you have. We tend to focus on the negative too much, but happiness is always there. And God is always there, ready to help us. This is on the other side. You just have to cross that river.
I think it's the most original definition that I've ever gotten from somebody when asked about happiness. So thank you for sharing that with us. So so going back as an educator, would it be the same, or you would like to add something?
Yeah, as an educator, it's research, happiness for learning, happiness in learning.
Mm-hmm.
Happiness for learning is you have to be the happy person first to become a happy learner, because learning is a very vulnerable process. When I start coaching in the science of learning, I always start with the learning traumas, because we all come from schools, from teachers who told us at one point in our lives that we are stupid, that we are not good at math, we are not good at this and that, and this is the learning trauma. And you have to label it, you have to live through it, work through it in order to start really learning. And this is happiness for learning.
Mm-hmm.
In general, there are lots of details to it, lots of things that we do to facilitate it. And we use the SPIRE elements, because it's about interconnectedness of all things. It's about, the whole being. And also happiness in learning. And happiness in learning is the most tricky. And that's why I was thinking about it for a long time. And I came up with the flower of life, that model that I presented. And to me, why I called it the flower of life, because the focal point is that we can't assess children based on the grades, that we can't assess success, valued success. I mean, we need to have, of course, formative assessments. That's all good. But success is your portfolio, as I call it. Portfolio of life, your flower of life. Mm-hmm. What you put into it throughout.
So what do you put in the flower of life?
Exactly. So the happiness is, whatever you learned in kindergarten till the ripe old age. This is happiness in learning, what you put into it and how you can take it out whenever you really need it.
Mm-hmm.
And the flower of life model is divided into lifelong learning. It means evergreen, ever learning, always learning, constantly. Even now, I'm learning. I'm learning from you. I'm learning from myself even, because you never know what you're going to say, the next moment. And
I will surprise you.
Yes, up until you say it, you understand that you really think so. Mm-hmm. So this is learning forever. Then we have the sacred knowledge, which is the second part. And sacred knowledge is the foundation of aha moments, revelations, eurekas, because knowing thyself is the beginning, of all wisdom, of all knowledge and happiness in learning. So you have to have a good self-concept of yourself as a learner. We also call it in metacognition, we call it meta-knowledge. Knowledge it can be the knowledge of the task, what you need to do, but also the knowledge of yourself as a learner. We have meta experiences when you are nervous before public speaking. This is also sacred knowledge. Why you're nervous? Because you're anticipating that you might say something not quite right, and so on and so forth. So it's very important to facilitate sacred knowledge, to have a well-polished self-concept, knowing thyself, listening to thyself and learning from your own soul. And then you can really generate innovation. And the third one is learning from life. Because successful people, again, it's a portfolio, as I said. It's a life portfolio. It's not the grade that you had at school. And we had the research, and everybody knows that the F students, they are more successful than the A students. Why? Because the A students were just focusing on getting A's.
Or all the dropouts from high school or college.
They dropped out and they went to life to learn from life, And this is how they became successful. So the futurists in education, and I'm working in this direction as well, they say, and I'm singing to the choir here, that in the future, we are not going to focus on grades. We are going to focus on the portfolio, the portfolio of life. And this is what you can offer to your employer. This is what you can offer for your career prospects. Everything matters. So learning from life, learning from art, which means exposure, which means reading, extensive reading. And you know how many teachers are not well-read people? Again, not to blame them, but this has to change. We have to really treat them as a high-rank, high-level athletes, and only then we can change the system. So that was the happiness in learning. And this is happiness in education for me. Happiness for learning, happiness in learning. And luckily, it is researchable. And we are getting there. Unfortunately, the body of research is lacking a lot these days, but we are getting there. And thanks to Tal Ben-Shahar and the field of happiness studies, because we have positive psychology, but it is just psychology. We need philosophy. Even in neuroscience, the recent research on happiness in neuroscience, we are moving.
Yeah. It was coming. But wait, I won't let you. First of all, wait a second. So hold your thought. First of all, I want to say that it's fascinating, and I want to wish you good luck. And I hope that you're gonna share like this, the flower of life, to as many people as possible. And I hope that just share it with the world. And I think it's really, really interesting, and especially that you came out with it. So just go for it. And I also I relate so much. I wanted to say something to mention before we go to neuroscience, because I wanted to ask you something about the trauma. With the trauma with the professors, what you said. I was just listening on the way here. I'm listening to a program. It's called All About Parenting, and it's in Romanian. And I think I'm, towards the last chapter, and she was talking about the difference between punishment and discipline, and how bad, punishment it is, and how important it is to teach a kid, about discipline. But, to explain him I won't get into the details, but bottom line was to explain logic consequences. If you do something, then this will happen, but something related, to the thing. And one of the things that she was mentioning was how many times and even today, in Romania, it happens that the kids are humiliated, in front of the class. Adults have nightmares of being taken out and, having dreams, that they're being called, in front of the class, or they would ask questions, and I remember I was failing exams, now after I finish. Anyway, bottom line, what I wanted to say is that how important it is to change all this, to change the situation. And the only way to do it is to actually educate the educators. Can I say that?
Yeah, it's the first step. Yeah, it's the first step to train the teachers. Yeah, I remembered I also had the nightmares, when I left school and I was at uni. I had nightmares that I'm getting back to school. Seriously, I woke up sweating, in horror. So I can relate to that. Yeah, you could be just put on the spot very easily, in the center of the class, especially when you didn't know something. But again, this is about, shifting the focus. What is the point? Like putting somebody on the spot, like saying that the child doesn't know something, or the point is, leveraging from strength of the child. They're always the strength, and we have to leverage from them. Yeah, not go against it and just saying that someone is not good enough.
Yeah.
Of course, we are not everything. Yeah, there are certain things that it's more difficult for us to learn than the others, but there's always the key, to the child's heart. Children who like literature, they can understand math through literature, because math is the language of philosophy, and people who love literature, they love philosophy, because literature is full of morals, and we learn from it, and it's all about philosophy. So they're keys. If the teachers want, again, to dig deeper. That's why I always speak about in my articles, my work is about deep learning and deep teaching. But again, as you said, to get to deep teaching, to shape the teachers, to make them want to do it, they have to be treated as the high-class athletes. They have to be well-traveled, and for that, they need to get paid well, right? They have to be people who have seen a lot of things, who have been to different museums, who have exposed themselves to art, to history, to expeditions, whatsoever. This is what the high-level people do, people at the top. Where do they get this innovation? What do you think? They get it from learning from life, because they have the opportunity to travel and see the world. But the teachers don't. They are just in their class and with unhappy faces, and they multiply unhappiness as a result. So we have to start with teacher training. If we want to have a healthy generation, a successful generation of innovators, because especially in the era of AI, just to survive, you have to innovate, let alone flourishing and thriving. And it's all about teacher training and the process, how we can manage to change the processes at schools locally. Yeah, we have to do it locally, we have to do it bottom up and top down as well, from politics. It comes from politics, from people, from policy makers, from people who make decisions. So it should be a top down.
Yeah, from macro to micro decision. Okay.
Yes, all of them. Yeah.
So talking about like focusing on strengths, I know that your strength is neuroscience. And I would like to ask you now, I see that you have like a brain there. And
yeah, it's my buddy.
It's your...
he travels with me. He's always
there with
here.
you in the bag?
Yeah, it's quite heavy actually.
Okay. So my question is, of course, so tell me from the point of view of the neuroscience, what happens to our brains when we are happy?
Yeah, so again, neuroscientists went back to philosophy, and then they talked about hedonia and eudaimonia. So hedonia, not hedonism, because a lot of people mix it up. Hedonism is pleasure for the sake of pleasure, but hedonia is the pleasure, the happiness that you're experiencing right now. Yeah, it's a momentary, it's the emotion. And also eudaimonia, which is a life well lived, which is meaningful life. And of course, because we have the reward system in the brain, which is nucleus accumbens. This is the deep brain structure in the striatum. This reward system is much easier to explore from the neuroscience perspective. So neuroscientists, they took the hedonic way. They explored the hedonia, not the eudaimonia. But I think the reward system is also related to the life well lived, because the delayed gratification, but it's also gratification. And from the neuroscience perspective, we have the neurons which communicate. So the way we learn, we attend to the stimulus. And neurons have chemical and they also have electrical signals. So the chemical signals, so the electrical signals is what fires together. If it fires, if there is a signal, it wires. So you remember it as a result, you learn it. And the chemical signals are through neurotransmitters. So the neurotransmitters, they go through this synapse, this synaptic gap, they communicate. And we all know these hormones, these neurotransmitters, as dopamine, we know oxytocin, we know endorphins. They're all the happiness chemicals. People call dopamine the pleasure, the happiness hormone. But to be precise, from the neuroscience perspective, dopamine is the wanting hormone. So this is the wanting hormone and the liking hormone. And here we talk about the reward system, which is in mesolimbic pathway. Just not to get into many details.
No, I love it. Feel free to share.
Dopaminergic system. And it has mesolimbic and mesocortical pathways. So mesolimbic, why meso? Meso means in the middle. So this is the deep brain, which you can't see because I have to reassemble it for you to see. It's very deep inside. So mesolimbic, mesomiddle, limbic means limbic system, your amygdala, your emotions. And this is reward, which is wanting. This is pleasure, which is liking. And this is also reinforcement, the good feedback, which is learning. So in quotes, we call it the dopamine is involved in wanting, liking, and learning. And this is all happiness. Learning is also happiness in your brain. As I said at the beginning, digging deeper is enjoyable if you get used to doing that, if you have this as your eudaimonia, as the meaning. So things are interconnected and they are very important. And dopamine is about wanting, and wanting, some people who are depressed. Why are they depressed? Because
they're lacking dopamine. Exactly.
Yes, they can't get up on their 2 feet because they are always without wanting. There are also people without liking, and they never like anything. They complain. So this is hormonal. It's all, we are all full. We are all. Some researchers say that we are the chemicals in action. But it's good to look at it from different dimension. Neuroscience is one dimension, and neuroscience shapes psychological theories because there are a lot of theories, but they don't map on neuroscience. So we can't prove them. But what psychology does, it's a two-way street. So both of them are important. Psychology helps us to explain and provides a model. So the model, the flower of life that I connected, it is really helpful because it comes from neuroscience. It maps on neural correlates. So it's very important when you can find the neurobiological basis for your research, but also you can find the psychological model, the framework, how you're going to use it, how you're going to bring it to the world, because here we can't see it. It is here. It's important to know how it works, because when you buy an iPhone, you need to read the instructions, yeah, how to use it. And the same with education, how we link neuroscience to education. It's the direct link. Our brain is involved in learning directly. So if we optimize our brain, yeah, we bring ourselves in a proper brain state for learning. We're calm, we're relaxed, yeah, we don't have any hormonal disbalance, we learn better. And also through psychology, this is an indirect approach, an indirect link, because as I said, neuroscience shapes psychological theories and psychology studies behavior. Yeah, and behavior, this is what we do in education. We study the influence of instruction on behavior. So
I have 100 questions to ask you, but I want to ask you something specific. I want to get it I want to try to make it more practical or something like that.
Yeah,
so
right, yeah.
You mentioned the neurons, right? Like the one that the FARC. So I'm thinking about neuroplasticity. This is the first thing that, my brain, was doing so building new neural pathways. And, until not a while ago, they thought that the brain is fixed and we won't change it. And actually, we won't be able to create new neural pathways. More than that, older we get, we're losing more neurons. But because of neuroscience and because of neuroplasticity, we understood that we can do that. So how can we create more positive habits? And how can we create more neural pathways for ourselves in order to be happier? Does it make sense what I said?
Yes, of course. Yeah. So neuroplasticity, we have structural and functional neuroplasticity. It's neuroscience based, and the psychological term for it is growth mindset. They go hand in hand. Yeah, neuroscience calls it neuroplasticity, but in psychology, how we apply it through growth mindset. Yeah? And growth mindset is actually one of the points in my thesis dissertation was about meta motivation and metacognition. So growth mindset is meta motivation. How to motivate yourself. Yeah, because we have intrinsic motivation, extrinsic motivation. Yeah, so they're all good. Extrinsic is the reward that we can get. Intrinsic is what we really need ourselves. We want it, we like it. But meta motivation is beyond that. Meta means beyond. Meta motivation is knowing how to motivate yourself. Knowing the how, yeah, the practical application, as you said. So growth mindset is one of them. So this is the practical application. When you say I'm not there yet, I will do that soon. Fail to learn to fail or fail to learn. So this is growth mindset. And there are lots of very useful games these days in growth mindset. You can play them in companies, you can play them at schools, but the teachers have to be trained in that, in meta motivation. Because there are 3 points, the growth mindset, attention, regulation, yeah, where you pay your attention to, where the students attend to. So this is also very important for motivating yourself. And delayed gratification. So these 3, attention, regulation, growth mindset, and delayed gratification, are about motivating yourself, how to do that, and they are very, very practical. So delayed gratification, just a couple of words, is, you have to do something very important and you know that you will be rewarded later. It's a long-term project. It's not just you take pleasure now, but you will regret it later. Yeah, you pay forward for it. And this is very important for the teachers to know and to practice and to teach it as well. So these are the practical applications of neuroplasticity, is meta motivation.
So just for you to know, like I think last year my girls came back with the picture of them. So it was like the picture, and then the other part was like they taught them the difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset, the Carol Dweck model, and I was like, what? I learned about this when like after my 30s, and they knew they could explain me the difference. So I think it's a beautiful. It's a beautiful way to explain to the kids, and to teach them, what they have power of their decisions, of their of their brain. And okay, so I'm trying to wrap up, and I still have many questions that I didn't ask you, but I still want to ask you about mindfulness, about meditation, not mindfulness, like meditation, gratitude, and all this stuff. Like how do they help us, and how do they help our brain again, like how can we be happier?
Yeah, so in the brain, meditation, mindfulness, these practices, they result in the shrinking of amygdala in gray matter. So we have the gray matter and the white matter. Gray matter is basically everything, the neurons, the cells that we have. And white matter, it's white because of myelin. This is the fatty substance that is responsible for connectivity. So if there is a myelin sheath, then the connection goes faster. And when people meditate, when they practice mindfulness, the gray matter in amygdala, responsible for emotional regulation, shrinks, which means practically they can regulate their emotions better. They don't, they stop being so impulsive, explosive, losing their temper. They can better regulate. And interestingly, the gray matter in prefrontal cortex, which is the thinking brain, the rational brain, increases, which means people can think more rationally. They can make better decisions, not emotional decisions. So this is what neuroscience has to say about it. So of course, it's very important. You said gratitude. Gratitude is the oxytocin, the bonding hormone. When you are grateful to everything that is happening to you, you're bonding with the universe, with yourself, with others. And it gives this calm, pleasant feeling as well, which is also the feeling of happiness. So everything is interconnected, and we are very lucky that we are living in the times then when we have this research, and we are not just guessing that, I feel so, but it has already been, proven, and it's just ready to go, ready to use. We just have to use it.
Wow, super interesting. Tell me now, for wrapping up, what would you want to... I know that I was supposed to ask you many more questions, but I want to, leave taste for more, because I would really want to invite you more, and you can explain us more about your projects and about the neuroscience and everything. What would be one other thing that you really want to talk about and you'd like to add, or something like practical for the listeners, what they can do in order to improve their quality of life, and of course that will lead them to a happier life?
Yeah, I would say I would pay attention to deep learning and to learning, because learning is one of the ways to happiness. The intellectual well-being. When we expose ourselves to different experiences, when we are not afraid to take the step forward, to innovate, to when we are open-minded enough to learn from each and everybody, this is when we become truly happy. Because happiness is not just sitting here with the smile. Happiness can be light, happiness can be heavy. And if we talk about happiness, it is truly to start feeling the satisfaction from work, from learning, because the person, the human being, was not created to just do nothing. And this is the whole thing about education, to fall in love with the process of learning, of uncovering the layers, of digging deeper. So this is my suggestion, my heart desire, that everyone falls in love with this process. Because, as the good metaphor here is the gemstones. I like sapphires, diamonds, they're all deep in the ground.
Mm-hmm.
People have to mine, they have to look for them in the darkness. And the same when it comes to knowledge. Knowledge is hidden. Yeah, and this is the pleasure to dig, to look for knowledge in the darkness and find, and then when the knowledge is polished, like the diamond, like the sapphire, then everyone can see its beauty. And this is so rewarding. But before, you have to, make
get
yourself
your hands, exactly, to put your hands with mud.
Yes, with mud, and you have to dig there. And this is also pleasant. If you learn to take pleasure from it, you will probably succeed, and you will be a happy person in learning.
I love that. Thank you so much, Aleksandra, for taking the time, for sharing. I wouldn't say all this knowledge, because I know that you know much more. This little part of your knowledge. And thank you for bringing, so much light to the studio, although you're like far away from me. It was, I don't know when the time, it just like went by so fast. And as you know, time flies when you're having fun. So again, an honor and a pleasure to have you here with me today.
Thank you, Luca. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for your time, for your professionalism, for your questions. It was really my pleasure to share. And I look forward to more.
Okay. I have it on the camera. Be careful what you wish for.
Yes, that's true.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Relocate to happiness.